Wells, Chairman of the Zoning Board, and Chad, here are the city employees on zoning and mapping. We'll call the roll of who's here.
Mike Cordy.
Here.
Ken Kovac.
Here.
Billy McDaniel.
Here.
Denise Peebles.
Here.
John Taylor.
Here.
Clyde Wills.
Here.
Jim Young.
Here.
Thank you.
So we do have a quorum, but the purpose of this hearing is to discuss and try to answer questions concerning the proposal to put a housing complex at the old central school site. Chad, do you want to talk a little bit about the zoning change required for that?
We received an interest in the property that is Central School, 1100 block of Perry Street. The parties had proposed project to do a multifamily or a community type project there. Currently the property is zoned single family residential. Within our zoning code, we are able to make zoning amendments. Anyone, the city, myself, the zoning board, or any interested party may make a proposed zoning amendment. There's typically two types of amendments. There's text changes to the text itself, or changes to a district, such as what we're doing tonight, changes from zoning from one classification to another. A few weeks back, we received a petition letter from Pete Swigert, good enough? And it was a petition letter to change this property zoning from single-family residential to a more conducive C1 neighborhood business, which would permit this type of proposed development. The good thing about C1 neighborhood business is it also supports the city's comprehensive plan, and the fact that it's been laid out over some time in the past that the city would like to see that property always be some sort of public or institutional based. The school being there all these years was great for that. With the development that we're doing, a proposed development that we're doing as a managed community property, and the fact that C1 also allows for other types of institutional types of development and small, very limited commercial, it really fits that comprehensive plan very well. So we've had our initial review of the Planning Commission, put our notices in the paper, sent out our mailings to all parties interested that would be directly affected. We have called our hearing tonight, and we're ready to get public comment.
I'd like to make a couple of announcements. When you want to ask a question or make a comment, you need to come up to the podium, speak into the microphone, give your name and address. And you have to do this each time because our court reporter won't know the people, and so she needs to know who's saying what, just for the record, so that City Council will know how many people are in favor, how many are against, and things of that nature. And of course, a lot of people may just have questions. We would like to start with the developer, if he would like to make opening remarks about what type of housing
Yes.
asking to do.
Members of the Planning Commission, thanks so much for your time. My name is Pete Schwigerlett. I'm with Miller Valentine Group. We're located at 9349 Waterstone Boulevard in Cincinnati, Ohio. Just a real quick brief background on Miller Valentine as a development company. We've been in existence now for 55 years. We're a full service developer. We do really anything and everything under the rainbow, from commercial, office, retail, light industrial work. 25 years ago, in an attempt to further diversify, we got into housing. Since then, we've developed, owned, managed a portfolio of housing that includes around 13,500 units. We are considered somewhere in the realm of around the 11th largest multifamily developer in the country. Our portfolio includes a mix of just market rate conventional apartments, for sale condos, adaptive reuse, historic preservation, renovation, conversions of buildings. And more recently, we focused a lot of our effort on senior housing. Senior housing is the #1 aging demographic in every community I've gone into across the Midwest. And that's no different in your communities, and that is what we're proposing here today. I think one interesting point I do want to make about Miller Valentine that I feel is something valid and valuable to you as a community is we are a long-term owner of our assets. We're fully integrated. So if we were to do this, we would develop it, we would own it, we would build it, and we would also manage it. So we are here and hoping to become a long-term member of your community. The first development we built 25 years ago along the banks of the Ohio River in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. We still own it, we still manage it. In fact, we just completed an $11 million renovation of that facility after 20 years. It's time for some upgrades. And so we've reinvested in that facility and again, continue to own and manage that. So we do look forward to being and hope to be a long-term resident and owner in your community. And when you own the properties and you manage the properties, you care for them because it's your money, your investment at stake. In the face, to see the name you're hearing today is the name you would see in place in year 5, in year 10, and year 15. So I did just want to give you a quick introduction to Miller Valentine as a company. I did bring one marketing piece along, just kind of give you a feel for what we do. I'll pass that along, if you don't mind. And I've also got some exhibits that I can share. And what I'll do, is I see lots of audience here as well, I'll pass two along if you don't mind kind of looking if you like, and passing and sharing those along as well. And I will do the same here. If you can help me pass those along, you should be enough for one for each of you there. What we're looking to develop here is a senior independent living facility. It will be age restricted, 55 plus, so no resident within the development will be under the age of 55. The reality is though, is we have about 2,000 of these senior units, and we average about a 78-year-old resident in this. So it's really focused on taking your true retired senior, keeping them independent and on their own absolutely as long as possible. It's the first step in the continuum of care. So typically, seniors as they age, if they need care, would transition out of their home and into independent living. And then from independent living, they would potentially then transition into assisted care and nursing care as they need that. The best component of independent living is it's designed to keep seniors independent and on their own as absolutely as long as possible. So in addition to actually having the senior units, we're not assisted care. There won't be any medical or health care provided by us, but we will be providing curb-to-curb senior transportation, in-home meals for those who need it, light housekeeping for those who need it, and we do medical referral and coordination. So seniors who have medical needs and care, we help connect them to the medical care they need. We just don't provide it ourselves, and that keeps, again, seniors independent and on their own as absolutely long as possible. What you see in plan there conceptually is 2 of our senior products. We're looking at somewhere around 45 to 50 units. That hasn't been fully finalized yet, but we're thinking it's going to land somewhere around 48 units. So we're looking at 48 senior rental units. These are rentals. We'll have a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. We have 2 product types. We have a building that's a 3-story elevated building that would have a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units in it. The 1 bedroom units are around 700 square feet. The 2 bedroom units are about 875 square feet. Fully amenitized modern units, 100% accessible, 0-step entries throughout this building. In-unit laundry, walk-in closets in every bedroom, dishwasher, fully amenitized kitchens. If you look at, I don't know if I provided floor plans. Yeah, I did provide floor plans. Floor plans have big, large breakfast islands in the kitchens, very modern floor plans. These will, bar none, be the nicest apartment units in your community. In addition to the accessibility and the senior design that we do, this will be a green building design. We'll be building to the National Green Building Standards. Everything will be Energy Star certified. ERS ratings is somewhere around 60, and if you're familiar with energy efficiency, it doesn't get much better than that in the building. So that's the 3-story building. I've got a rendering there of it. And you know, that building can get smaller or larger. Our goal is to also then do senior cottages, which are ranch in nature. Those are 2-bed, 1.5 bath with an attached garage. Those are around 925 to 950 square feet units. Single story, again, 0-step entry. And the reason we like to kind of integrate these two products together is because they kind of attract and cater towards different age seniors. The cottages attract the younger senior and the more independent and fully on their own seniors. And then the senior building typically will attract some of the older residents where they can be closer to our on-site manager and some of the internal amenities and services that we provide. Inside the 3-story building, we're loaded down with full spectrum of amenities as well. So we'll have full-time on-site manager, we'll have a service coordinator, they there to link residents to services, whether that be curb-to-curb transportation, meals, housekeeping, activities, etc. Additionally, we have a fitness center in the building, a business center in the building, a theater room in the building that's equipped with the full big screen TV and the works, as well as a Nintendo Wii, which we do programs and services. We see Thursday night bowling leagues and we see Tuesday morning golf leagues, as well as we actually do outpatient physical therapy with those with that gaming system where physical therapists come in as needed and work with residents and do services out of there as well. So the building's really loaded down with all sorts of amenities that are very attractive to all, let alone seniors. Right there in your building, at your fingertips, accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In addition to the full-time manager, it's a position that's typically 30 to 40 hour position. We will also have on-site maintenance person there to take care of the needs of the residents as well as you have issues and challenges with a unit or a service. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're proposing. If we're building, I'm going to just call it 48 units as kind of our benchmark here. 48 units, we're looking at about $9 million worth of total development costs for the project. This is a for-profit entity that will pay taxes, so we will take a property that right now is drawing 0 in tax revenues and turn it into a functioning property that's going to improve your tax base, not create, because it's senior in nature, not create any additional burden on your school district. You know, these units are, we like to feel that they're very affordable in nature and attractive to seniors. We're looking at targeting 2-bed rents, depending on if you're in the cottage or the 3-story building, around $6 to $650 in rent. And then a 1-bedroom unit is going to be somewhere around $550-ish. Still not set in stone, but that's kind of where we're setting the bars as of now. The residents will only pay electric. We take care of water, sewer, trash, maintenance, snow, lawn, all of that. So it's a very easy way for seniors to simplify your life. What the challenge is, and what we find is you get to that 75, 78-year-old mark, and you might own a home here in the community, and you're paying water, sewer, trash, taxes, insurance. You're dealing with the yard, you're dealing with the snow. You've got upkeep on the house, whether it's the HVAC unit or the roof or the windows or the carpet. There's always something to do. And the reality is you could own a home free and clear, and for what we can rent one of these facilities for you, you can simplify your life, take all of that burden out of your life, and come live in a place that's specifically designed to meet your needs, 100% accessible, all the amenities that you need as a senior, all in a one-stop shop. We'll be applying for financing in July. There's an application for funding through the state of Illinois, and we're hopeful that we can apply, but it's very competitive. We need zoning in place to be able to even submit. In addition to that, local support from the jurisdiction, whether it be the mayor or council, is encouraged in our applications to be successful. That there will be about 120 applications submitted in a year, any given year. And they have enough money to fund 30. So it's very, very competitive. We've submitted 3 in the past 2 years, and we've received 2, so we're doing 66% versus 25%. That's because we're looking for the right locations in the right communities. And right now, this type of housing does not exist in your community. And if you want your seniors to have a place to age in place and stay within the community, this is an ideal way to do it. The funding source, we would apply in July, we would find out in October, November-ish. And if we were funded October, November, we could probably be starting by May, June of 16. So it would be a 1-year build, so we would have units available May, June of 17. And again, it would bring this property, which has led a very healthy and I'm sure valuable and successful life as a school, and is now sitting there looking for a new use. We think this is a great new use. Very nice neighborhood and community around it. Not far from downtown services and amenities. The grocery, the pharmacy are all within a very reasonable distance, things we look for in senior product. And it's many times when we built similar product in Rantoul near Champaign. And we would start to, most of our residents were coming from the area, at least Champaign County, but we started to notice some residents coming from Bloomington or from Danville, and some of the further out, people coming from an hour away, and we started doing some surveying and interviewing. Well, why are you coming an hour to find a senior housing unit? And the answer is, well, this just isn't available in my community. And so this is an opportunity to put a very high quality, what will be the very nicest apartments in your community, targeting, again, age 55 plus, giving them a place to stay in your community and age well and stay independent as long as possible. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'm sure the public has a lot of questions. I hope you'll give me an opportunity to step back up and answer any questions you may have.
Yes, I'm sure that although they will be speaking to us, we will have some questions that you will be able to answer. Now, my understanding from the drawings is that all the parking will be within the center.
Internal, yes. This is designed, and I don't know if you heard the term or not, it's New Urbanist or TND, Traditional Neighborhood Development. So the way this building sits is you design it to sit up on the road, face the road with a nice facade, streetscape, and hide the parking in the rear. So basically the fronts of these buildings will all face out to the roads, and the parking is all internal to the center.
Okay, let's start with any questions that members up here have to ask.
One, who does your construction? You bring your own crew in, or do you subcontract to local?
Yeah, we would general contract, but we do not self-perform any work. We would bid it locally. And we've made this available to the city if they desire. Having done this and utilizing some state funds, we're used to procurement and the proper processes, and we want to make sure you're comfortable that we're doing the proper things. We welcome and are willing to do sealed bids with the city involvement where it's open together. The public notices will be run in your papers, in the county papers, to when it's time to go to bid.
You mentioned state funds. Explain what you're talking about there.
Yeah, it's a housing tax credit program. So basically, there's a federal program administered by the state. The state's given a certain amount of housing tax credits a year to administer, to develop, and build high-quality senior housing. So there are some components with that. So we are required to rent, restrict, and keep the units affordable so that they are accessible to residents. And then there is a targeted 60% AMI bar that residents must adhere to as well. Now for seniors, that's very, very easy to achieve because they are retirees. So the 60% is based on your county and households as a whole. The retired seniors, it typically is somewhere around 85% of senior households meet the income and the age criteria. When we did our first demographics, which is basically just draw a 4-mile ring around the site, which would be the city, but also possibly parts of the surrounding townships. The 4-mile ring had somewhere in the realm of about 600 households that met both definitions. And right now, those 600 households have no options in the community. A couple points to make. There is no HUD involvement whatsoever with these developments. HUD is not involved. There's no public housing. There's no Section 8, project-based Section 8 involved with this development. So there are these affordability layers and also state and federal funds involved, but none of it has to do with project-based Section 8 or public housing or HUD or your housing authority involvement.
So there's no monthly subsidy?
No rent subsidy whatsoever. Residents pay their own rent, yes.
And you pay everything in utility costs except the electric.
Yeah, well, and if somebody wants cable or phone, those are kind of on their behalf as well. We do provide wireless internet throughout the building, though.
Okay, any other questions from board members at this point?
Is there a preference to local citizens?
There's no specific physical, we're not allowed to,
Say,
yes, but what we do, and this is a commitment we make in what the reality is also, is we're here in Metropolis to house Metropolis seniors. Our marketing efforts are based right here, you know, whether that be out of your community centers or your senior centers or your libraries, you know, here is where we're serving, but we can't prevent someone from coming out of the community or out of the county and deciding to live here.
I meant more mass activity.
Our efforts are done right here. Another point to make related to that is, while there are fair housing laws that anyone and everyone have to adhere to, we found it important to set a policy across the board that we take the absolute most stringent approach to fair housing laws we can. A couple examples. Number one, we are allowed to deny because of felonies. So anyone who comes and tries to rent an apartment from us who has a felony, they're an automatic denial. That's across the board at any one of our facilities. That would be the same scenario here. Anyone with any kind of domestic violence in their past, or felonies or misdemeanors related to domestic violence, they're disqualified immediately. So we're allowed to do things within fair housing to protect our residents and make sure we have a safe development community and safe to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna throw one in.
Yes,
What
sir.
type of security measures do you have within your facility?
Well, first and foremost, in the 3-story building, everything's electronically fob entrance. So if you go to the first set of doors, you're gonna electronically fob yourself in. That's gonna get you into the vestibules at any entrance. Once you're in the vestibule, you then fob in to the next set. Now, when on-site managers are there in the office, there's actually cameras in those vestibules so they can see who's in and possibly buzz people in themselves. Inside the main vestibule would be where someone would buzz a room and get the doors unlocked for themselves after hours. And then in the cottages, they're really nice and secure unit to begin with, because folks are driving right into the garage, they're shutting the garage door behind them, getting out of their cars, and already within their secure environment. But beyond that, yes, like I said, there will be cameras in the main building. We don't do the cameras in the cottages, but lighting, appropriate lighting, street lighting, so that it's ambiance as well as security, but also not spilling out into the neighborhood. So you do that with downcast lights, and each one of the entrances to any individual unit's gonna have lights on it. All of our entrances to the 3-story building will have lights on them, as well as parking lot lighting as well, so that there's enough light out there that folks feel safe getting out of their cars and entering.
Okay, we need to get to the members of the public who have come. So who wants to be first? Step up, give your name and address, and ask or comment. Come on.
I'm Mike Woods, 1200 Market Street, Metropolis. First question I have, are there going to be pets allowed?
Yes, up to 40 pounds is our maximum weight.
Okay. The second question I have, is the ground going to be leveled? Because I'm concerned about the drainage, because before I had drainage into my yard, and the city fixed it for me, and I'm just concerned if the new construction is going to cause that problem.
Essentially, yeah, there will be some balancing of the site and leveling of the site. We will be required to adhere to your detention standards, which will actually detain additional water beyond what is being detained now. So I would say if there are drainage issues, we will be able to correct those, and per your codes, we'll be required to correct those.
Okay, my next question is, during construction, I know when they tore the school down, we had so much dust coming into our home. During construction, are we gonna be seeing that again?
Obviously, there's always a challenge with
Right.
construction. We will be adhering to not only city, but state code as far as erosion control and so forth. With this being a small site, we typically don't have a whole lot, but a dry, windy day, you know, you do what you can, I guess. But we will be implementing all required erosion control measures to make sure that's absolutely as minimized as possible. Construction typically does have less dust and debris than demolition.
My next question for the zoning commissioner, what about the taxes? How will that be affected for the area residents? Will they remain the same, or because of this new construction, will it cause the value of our property to go up, and the taxes go up, or?
Should not change anything to do with the taxes of the surrounding property.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it could lower it just a little in that there's another, say, $9 million for the county to tax.
Right.
So everybody else's should go down a little, but you know, things go like this on the taxes, and I would not expect to be able to see much of a difference.
The city will change it all.
Okay. And then another question, I noticed he was talking about the cottages versus the 3-story high. Will residents be allowed to have overnight guests?
Yeah, you're allowed to have overnight guests. I think they require a 1-week maximum, and they also have to register the guest with our on-site property manager.
Okay, I know these questions probably sound silly, but I'm
No,
familiar with how these things are work.
Okay.
When you said that you'll have people on there watching and working, is that just 24-hour care around, like maintenance and stuff like that? Is that what you're getting
Yeah,
at?
so our full-time on-site manager, during the lease-up stage, is typically there 40 to 50 hours a week. Once we're leased up, meaning all the units are filled, they're typically on about a 30 to 40-hour week at that point. So they're there essentially 9 to 5, 4 days a week. Then the on-site service person is there typically 30 to 40 as well. They normally kind of rotate those days so that there's always somebody on site.
That's what I was wondering.
They actually live on site.
No one, they don't live on site, but they're on site during their hours.
There's an office, there'll be like.
Yeah, we have an on-site
Okay.
manager's office and service office.
Something else you mentioned about the meals, you said that meals could be brought in. Is there gonna be facilities that prepare the meals there, or is that completely?
Yeah, well, we have a banquet facility and banquet room, which is where we'll hold dinners and meal programs, but they're typically we're using local service agencies and providers and bringing those meals in using those local providers.
And will those prices be reasonable for the residents?
Yes,
Okay.
those are, yeah, in a lot of cases, depending on their income, free or very, very nominal charge.
That's all the questions I had. Sounds pretty good to me.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Would you come a little bit
Yes, sir.
forward,
Sorry.
more forward? Thank you. Who's next for questions? Is he the designated questionnaire? Come on forward, sir.
My name is Jack Garner, and I live at 105 East 11th Street, just more or less across the street from the school grounds. And I went through the period when the school was there with the traffic problems, and that's one thing that worries me about, especially doing construction period, trucks and equipment all digging and moving and cement trucks and all that. And I was concerned too about property values, whether they would go up or down. If this is as good as it sounds so far, why, I think it would improve the property problems, but, so.
Well, I certainly don't think that you'll have the traffic problems that you did in the school, because that
Yeah.
twice a day was really a mess.
Well, I see from the picture where they are providing parking on the property
Inside.
and not on the street.
Yeah.
'Cause I know the church is going through a lot of work and all to get their side over there paved and all for church parking. And I don't know whether that will remain that way or not, or whether
city
over
property, so I don't think it will go away.
I didn't know whether the church had any investment in it or not, or whether it
We
just,
put all the paving in, we put all the sewer, the drainage in, and the sidewalks.
Yeah.
That's all, that's city property.
it would just be a matter of how much places there was left to park on Sunday mornings.
From the looks of it, I would say that that be the one remaining nice section of on-street parking potentially from the looks of the layout. But like I said, I'm sure that would be a concern that the church would keep an eye on.
Okay, maybe if I live long enough, I'll be one of the first people to move in. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Kristen Whalen, I live at 204 West 12th Street. I am concerned about visitors and crime rate. I was a rape victim years ago, and that's never going to go away. And I know that a lot of elderly grandmothers have their grandsons come in to visit, and then it turns in, they'll leave for a day, and then they're a week visitor again. And so I'm very concerned. I'm very much against this. And I saw, when I was able to work in the field of medicine, the elderly that I saw in Metropolis, $650. I don't think there's enough people in Metropolis that could afford it. And that's neither here nor there. But I expect it to lower my property value even more, which angers me. And I mean, I can only live with what I live with. And I have to be here tonight to say that I'm worried about the crime rate. I'm worried about who grandma has come spend the night. I mean, it's bad enough, it's gotten bad enough now from the other way coming down the alley. It was once considered a great place to live. Now it's like we have people around all the time that are scary. And I don't want to go through that ever again.
Thank you. Who's next?
Oh, I have one more thing. Christy Whalen, 204 West 12th. Do you have any other properties in this area?
The closest we have right now is in Rantoul, Champaign area. It was built 3 years ago. It is the same senior cottages that we are referring to in here. That one does not have the 3-story building. But I will be happy, and I'm certain that if you want to have the city check in with Rantoul, they're extremely happy with the results. In fact, as we're proposing this, I was up there today, and we're looking at a phase 2. So they've been very happy with it.
Well, I know a girl that runs 2 sets of apartments, one in Metropolis and one in Kentucky, and I know how that's run. And that's exactly what I'm afraid of happening here. And I live very close to school, and I don't sleep much as it is. And I don't want the crime rate to increase, and like I said, I just don't see from helping the elderly that I helped when I worked, I don't see the income being there. $650, I just don't see it. Not some little lady that makes $450 a month. They can afford to pay me in her house.
David Doherty, Metropolis. You mentioned that the parking area would be inside the complex. Will it be a kind of a gated, security type parking?
It's not officially gated. By the time we use the buildings around the periphery, there is very limited access to that area, but it's not gated to where you would say buzz into the parking lot. So it's generally more secure and has a few access points that do not have gates across it.
She mentioned about visitors. Will those people be on the list, you say?
Yes.
They will be on the list, the ones that will come in?
Yes, and they're only allowed one week stay. They're not allowed to then leave for a day scheme of an apartment facility is generally pretty small. With the age restrictions, those that don't fit the bill for the age restrictions kind of stand out a lot easier as well. You know, and that's one of the reasons we take a very stringent approach on fair housing laws and what we can do, because we need to protect our residents.
Yes.
And that's our priority number one. And we do not want anything we do to have an adverse effect on the environment. And just having owned these and being the owner in these long term, we take serious the management side. And unfortunately, not every landlord does the best job with that. So this is not a uncommon, you know, concern that I'm hearing. I think if folks get an opportunity to go up to Rantoul, I could also send you down to the Lexington area. We have a facility in Hamburg, which is just outside of Lexington. You see the facilities, and even the intensity of our development, we average 1.1 residents per unit. So 1 in every 10 actually has a second resident. Our parking, and we were talking about parking and traffic loads, 90% of our residents have 1 car. So typically we're producing less than 1 car per unit as well. So it's very low intensity. Typically when we're doing visitors parking, we're doing anywhere from 5 to 6 spots, and that's actually typically more than we need. There's, yes, people come visit, but it's not like there's very big parties or a lot of attraction here. Normally it's picking up grandma and taking her down to the restaurant, or you know, or something to that nature. So they're real low intensity. We're talking about, this is age restricted 55 plus, but in our 2,000 units, we average a 78-year-old resident. So I mean, we're talking about folks that are selecting and desiring to live here because they're struggling to get around, struggling to make the layout or the stairs in their house work, and really helping them stay independent as long as they can.
Jobs, once these are completed, will there be any maintenance jobs provided?
There'll be a full-time on-site manager job, and it's going to probably be like a 30-hour-week maintenance position.
Right.
So 2 jobs created, permanent jobs, and then during construction, you're talking about 300 to 400 one-year construction jobs as part of the construction period.
Kim Corum, 1100 North Avenue, or I'm sorry, yeah, that's North Avenue. The church is on Market Street, and I always get confused. Can you tell us specifically what measures would be taken with a resident and their family member if they abuse the policy of no one residing with them or visiting against the rule?
Yes, they would get a notice basically saying cure the non-compliance. And that's the thing, we're taking on substantial tax credits from the state and federal government. That if we don't adhere to all the required and regulations of the compliance, we can lose those tax credits and really financially be at risk with this project. So we have to take that compliance serious. And these are deed restricted. When we build this and we close this loan, the state will require us to sign a deed restriction saying only residents 55 plus meeting these criteria can live here. So the process would be provide them a letter saying cure the situation. If they didn't do that within probably a 2-week period, we would start the eviction process.
Other questions or comments?
Sherry Gilbert, 12 Ferry Street. I have one question. Earlier you said 48 units, then you just said 40. Is it 40 or 48?
Oh, well, I think I had said it's going to range somewhere between 45 and 50 units. We haven't honed in on an official number yet.
Okay. You got 1 3-story building. I don't know that we have a 3-story apartment building in the city metropolis, do we?
Hummus.
Hummus is the only one. That'll be elevator.
Yes,
Okay. Hummus, are we gonna still have setback laws off the city streets for this? Because I'm looking at a piece of property that I walk around the block 5 times a day, and you're telling me you're putting 50 units on there, parking inside.
Yes.
I mean, you're slam jamming it in there. You know, that's the way I'm seeing it. But another thing that might be beneficial would be beneficial to me and my grandmother. I live with my grandmother, and I'm not a problem though. But I take care of her. I know you do. Maybe if you could make available, maybe we could get the phone numbers to for the city, the police department, to see if the crime rate went up in those areas? Possibly where we could call and see.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want, you know, your manager's number because I don't know, but maybe we could see, because my grandma's worried about that too, because we do have some shady characters that walk up and down that alleys over there. But at the same time, like I said, if we
Those
could.
will be our concern just along with
Well,
the
you know,
area, yes.
it's increasingly getting worse, but then when you're adding, you know, you're saying 1+, so if you're putting 50 units in there, we're looking at 75 people living on a 1-block radius, so, you know, that's a whole lot of people, so that's gonna be a whole lot of walking traffic, you know? I don't know, that's the only thing I have. Maybe we could get some phone numbers.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to provide those to staff, and I'll get you a list of 3 or 4 of the most recent communities we developed in, and maybe even one we've been in for 15 years, so you can check out the long term as well.
Ken has a question.
You mentioned earlier that someone with felony or domestic violence problems would be excluded from renting.
Yes.
Do you do any kind of check on visitors, since they have to register with you?
I would have to check into that. I don't know. Typically, again, we don't see overnight visitors in this. It's typically if someone's visiting the property, they're there and an hour and off they go again. I would have to confirm what kind of background checks we do or don't do on visitors.
3 minutes on the internet, a lot of
Yeah.
services.
Sure, I understand.
Do all residents have to be 55? What if what if a man moves in 60? He's married to a 30-year-old woman.
All adults.
All adults. All right, I'm just asking the question. Okay.
That's been a question asked before. That, or I mean, in today's world, as unfortunate as sometimes, you know, grandparents have custody of children. You know, but all adults in the unit have to be on the lease. All of them have to meet the income or the age requirements.
So 60-year, wait a second, step up here. You said it, Christy Wayland, 204 West 12th. You said all adults, what about children?
In theory, if a grandparent has custody of a child and they are underage, that is a scenario that could exist. Now, I can tell you, we own 2,200 of these units. We don't have that scenario in any of our 2,200 units. So while it is a possibility, it's a very, 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 very minimal scenario that we don't see actually implemented. And by the way, the instant that they hit 18, they are unfortunately no longer able to live there.
Unfortunately, it's sad that children are getting, and this has nothing to do with him, but I have it on fairly good accord that offers were made for that property of $150,000 and $125,000, both turned down. And now we're gonna take $100,000 because it's.
Christie, that's the school system.
Yeah, we have
It's
nothing
not
to do
the
with that.
city's.
Well, I mean, I just think that's.
Mike, did you have another quick question?
Yes, I do. Mike Woods, 1200 Market Street. Is drinking allowed for the residents?
Yes.
It is, okay. I want to make sure, because I know from experience with my mother-in-law living or assisted living, and by the way, she was paying $2,100 a month, so I wish they would have been here by then.
Exactly.
And they had happy hour, I just want to make sure.
Well, my dad always told me if he's gonna live in one of these facilities, he wants it within walking distance of BW3, so I mean,
Okay.
just a real quick point to the rents, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Just is, you know, when I talk about 650, that's the upper end of the market. Not every one of these units is at 650. Those are a few of the cottages. You know, most of those units are well underneath that, and that's the things, you gotta balance this. This is there to target your low to moderate income residents, and we have rents that are gonna range from as low as $350 up to $650, and there's a big balance and spectrum in there to meet the different needs and incomes of residents in your community.
Okay, any further questions from the board?
Are those adjusted from their income?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
He asked if those were based on their income. To some extent, yes. There's a few bars that would change whether you would be this rate or that rate.
City Attorney, do you have anything to add to?
Mike has one more question.
That's not another question, I'm sorry. Mike Woods, 1200 Market. If this company is not selected and it falls through, or so to speak, will that open it up to another type of building project. You know what I'm saying?
It would open it up to another similar type of apartments or something.
With the same restrictions and guidelines, is that what you would be looking for, or you can't say?
Well, that's what we would be looking for.
Okay.
It would not open it up to
wouldn't
a
want it
service
any less.
station or a liquor store or warehouse or something like that. Okay, the city council meeting coming up in a few minutes, so we need to bring this to a close unless there are any other questions that are just burning.
My name's Butch Adams. I live at 1903 Macquarie. I own 2 properties on Market Street. And my question is there's a few people in this community, they're elderly, but they don't make that much money. So to pay their rent, they both live together, either 2 women or 2 men, whatever. And they're all, and they're senior citizens. If they come in there together, they still get that, what you say?
Yes, in theory, there can be 2 adults on a lease, 2 friends, brother, sister, mother, daughter. All those scenarios would be acceptable as long as they're combined, as long as they were both over the 55 bar and their combined income kept them within the income bracket.
Okay.
So,
Well, I
yeah.
know 2 people, they're couples, they don't make $750 a month between them.
And they would then in theory qualify, as long as they meet all the other criteria, the no felonies, the no domestic violence, the 55 plus, and they stayed under the 16% bar there, yes. That's one of the reasons we offer the 2 bedrooms. Like I said, most of the time it's a den or a sewing room or the 2nd bedroom, but yeah, it's nice that you can.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we've heard a lot of information about the apartments. Technically, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to vote on. What we're going to vote on is recommending a zoning amendment which would enable apartments to be built of this nature. Board members have all received the zoning amendment report, which goes to C1 neighborhood business, very restricted business category. Are there any further questions, comments from the board? Is there a motion to make a recommendation to the city council?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so your motion is to
Yes.
recommend this to the city council. Okay, last chance for questions. Done. Call the roll for vote.
Mike Cordy.
Yes.
Ken Kovac.
Yes.
Billy McDaniel.
Yes?
Denise Peters.
Yes.
John Taylor.
Yes.
Clyde Wills.
Yes.
Jim Young.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the hearing and action by the zoning board. Everything else will now go to the city council.